Hey everyone, it's Don't Bother Watching 1000 with a return of Revolutions, the records that I've been spinning and enjoying for the past few days. I hope you're well. We've been released. Freedom Day has come, which I think is ludicrous for me, but nothing is going to change much for me because I have no intention in participating in the economy of the vaccinated, despite being vaccinated myself. I just don't agree with the idea of it, but each to his own. You might scream at me watching this and say I'm stupid, but this is my opinion. It's my channel, it's my opinion. I can do what I want. I hope you're well anyway. Without further ado, here are some records. I started the morning with Graz by Niels Fram. Now, obviously, came out this, not obviously, but it's an album that came out earlier this year, and it's a solo piano album, typically like what Niels Fram puts out, and it's an archival release. I think was recorded in 2009, I believe, and was meant to be one of his first solo releases, but was shelved. And anyway, it's beautiful impressionistic modern classical piano records. It's lovely on a Sunday morning. It's a very delicate touch of Niels Fram. It gets you into a mood. It's a bit like listening to classical music. I very highly recommend Niels Fram to any newcomers. What's not to love? A guy playing beautiful piano. Niels Fram is obviously a German artist, but Graz, named after a city in Austria where he was doing some shows at the university. A record everybody should own or should listen to is My Favorite Things by John Coltrane himself. I don't need to say much about this. It's got a classic lineup: Train and McCoy Tyner and Alvin Jones and Steve Davis on bass. Not Jimmy Garrison, obviously not yet. But this is from the mid-60s, I think. I don't know exactly the date of this. You can look it up. Japanese pressing from 1971. Sounds nice. Beautiful. I mean, I'm never going to can Japanese pressings, and especially because the records are always so pristine and beautiful. As the title track, the classic title track, My Favorite Things, the adaptation of the classic soundtrack, is another beautiful record, jazz record. I was going to say, Straight Life by Freddy Hubbard on CTI, with a lineup of champions. George Benson, Ron Carter, Jack DeJohnette, Herbie Hancock, Joe Henderson. I mean, it sells itself almost. The great Freddie Hubbard released a few really key albums on CTI, Red Clay, but I think Straight Life is up there. Is up there in the CTI catalog as well. I think. The side one is the title track, Straight Life. It's a 17 minutes jam, very melodic trumpet playing, really groovy and driving. Just take a listen. I think this is essential in my opinion. It's a record that was missing in my collection and I only recently acquired. Very cheap. It's a reissue. It's a very cheap reissue, but I don't really care. It works. Sounds good. I've been listening to a lot of dub and reggae recently for some reason. I was revisiting Starship Africa by Creation Rebel. Creation Rebel is a group on the On You Sound label, the Adrian Sherwood spearheaded. UK jazz and dub label. And this came out in 1980, but was reissued in 2017. I picked this up like 2-3 years ago, but I hadn't really like played it a lot recently. It's a killer dub record, and what I like about this kind of dub album is that you've got melodica as a feature instrument. Augustus Pablo, the dub master, that was his instrument of predilection. So I love that kind of sound. It's got a very rootsy, very authentic dub sound. I think I very highly recommend this record. Very spacey and spacey. Starship Africa. Very trippy, spacey dub. This one is just an okay record. I wouldn't say go out and rush out and buy this, but it's all right. Keith Hudson obviously is one of the legends of if you had a dub pantheon, he would certainly feature in there. Jamie's dub encounter with Aston Barrett on bass and Carlton Barrett on drums, and Julian Mervyn on guitar. I think some nice moments, but a little bit hit and miss. This was a cheap record when I bought it, so I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer. And I don't have a ton of dub, but I think there are better Keith Hudson records to get into. Nonetheless, if you can find it cheap, and why not? It's not a bad release. It's just not really that memorable. But this next record is, however, essential. It's Burning Spear with Marcus Garvey. This is a record that I've had a long time in my collection, and which I think is one of these essential reggae records that everybody should have and should own. It's got a very jazzy vibe as well. You've got, on this you've got some alto sax and some trombone and some tenor sax, and it's got a real like big band sound, apart from the bass and guitar and organ. Obviously, Burning Spear, the trio of Winston Rodney, Delroy Hines, and Rupert Willington. What a beautiful spiritual album, spiritual reggae. I mean, I think by definition, most reggae has got a spiritual tinge because it's very, Rastafari is a religion, so de facto, and it's named Marcus Garvey. And if you've read the history of Rastafari and the religion, you'll know that Marcus Garvey is a very important figure in introducing the religion into Jamaica, so like a prophet almost. So yes, very spiritual. But I was playing Garvey's Ghost, which is the dub versions of Marcus Garvey, and it's also excellent and highly recommended. And and I'll finish off with this classic. I mean, it's like the my favorite things I don't need to introduce. Exodus. It's probably my equal favorite Marley record. It has Natural Mystic on it, and the title track, obviously. Waiting in Vain, Jammin', Three Little Birds, One Love. It's like a greatest hits album, lovely embossed version. Original Japanese pressing from 1977, I think. Which at the time when I bought it wasn't cheap. I remember thinking, wow, this is... But it's all right to pay good money for albums you love. I think there's nothing worse than like spending a whole lot of money on an album you're going to play 2 or 3 times. If something you love, bang, spend the money. You never regret it. This morning, before this video, I was playing this sort of Hindustani jazz fusion record on ECM. Zakir Hussain, I think it's called Making Music. It features John McLaughlin and Jan Garbarek on sax, plus Ari Prasad Chaurasia on flutes. Obviously, Zakir Hussain is one of the key figures in Hindustani music. He's a percussionist, a tabla player. He plays the tabla percussion and a bit of vocals there. This is a very, again, spiritual, deep jazz fusion meets Hindustani record, which I was in Germany a couple of years ago, and it just appeared in front of me, and I thought, I just took a little punt on it, because I know ECM, and this is a great record in my opinion. Very, very highly recommended. And the guitar chops of McLaughlin come front and center on some tracks. You're reminded of his brilliance. It's very, atmospheric. And I'll continue with some more of this kind of like Middle Eastern records. Like I've got a few of them. This is the wonderful, wonderful Anwar Brahim. Anwar Brahim is, I think, a Tunisian. He he hails from Tunisia, like my father. And this is Bazak, his album called Bazak. A lovely, lovely sleeve. Also on ECM. And this is a trio of oud, violin, and percussion. If that doesn't sell it to you, Anwar Brahim has got this, again, very transcendental kind of, I'll use the adjective spiritual again, way of, carrying out his music. Such a soulful player. This is arguably one of his best albums. If you like just lovely instrumental, Middle Eastern music, something that takes you to a different place, this is very highly recommended, from 1991 on ECM. I'm sorry, I'm not describing this very well, but you can always listen to these things and just make your mind up as well. I'm just telling you these records exist. Your job is to go, oh yeah, that looks interesting, let's look it up. Don't rely on me to describe things in like mega detail. Another one that I was revisiting is this Azar Habib Bouzouk. This is a lovely release on the EMI, the Lebanese EMI La Voix de l'Orient series from 1981. And this guy obviously is a bouzuk player. You can see the bouzuk is a Lebanese guitar, obviously. And this is bouzuk, and I think there's a little bit of drums on this as well. It's a lovely record. That's all I'll say. If you like, I don't know, if you like that sound, if you're into that sound, that Middle Eastern sound, that that Arabic, just take a listen. Okay, there's not much I can say. In the same kind of wheelhouse, not exactly, I revisited my copy of A Pluribus Unum by Sandy Bull. Again, Sandy Bull was an American guitar. I mean, he plays a whole lot of string instruments, and he makes instrumental kind of American primitive music. You talk about John Fahey and Robbie Basho, and you could put Sandy Bull in the same wheelhouse. And I think this record is an attempt by Sandy Bull to explore a sort of more psychedelic realm of music. And it's 2 tracks, No Deposit, No Return Blues, and Electric Blend. They're all like 20 minutes long, and it goes into jams with a little bit of fuzz guitar, got bass, ouds, oud, tambour, hi-hat, cowbell, so a little bit of percussion as well. But they're, very sort of psychedelic Middle Eastern jam sessions. Again, lovely records that came out on Vanguard. I believe this to be an original pressing, I don't know. I can't remember. We'll change directions a bit. There is a lovely record from 2015 by an artist, and her name is Julian Baker, and the album is called Sprained Ankle. So Julian Baker, I don't know where she comes. She's American. I don't know exactly where she comes from. And we have a sort of mixture between singer-songwriter, a bit of slowcore, definitely, sort of like Bill Callahan, Cat Power kind of sound on this. And I really love this record. I think it's very easy to listen. You put it on turntable and sort of, it's not, of great consequence. It doesn't leave you a mark. But I've played a few times in the past couple of weeks, and I just really enjoyed a sound. If you like Cat Power, if you like, bands like The Breeders or Pavement or Smog, you've got a kind of a mixture of indie rock and slowcore. Yeah. What to say, again, another classic, uber classic, the best Joni Mitchell album. I mean, look no further. For me anyway, some people will say no, it's called In Spark. Some people will say it's Hissing of Summer Lawns, But for me, I mean, I just dearly, dearly love this record. And this happens to be this week's segment of two things, because in past revolutions, I've spotlighted a 1971 record and a Sarah record. There you go. A record that my wife absolutely adored when she was alive. Absolutely, in fact, it's due to her that I love it so much as well. And the 1971 classic release. I just love every track on this. I think if I'm going to choose a track that I really particularly love, I think it would be River. River is just, but they're all so good. Little Green, what a sad song. California, A Case of You. If you don't have Blue is like one of these records, like a Love Supreme, or let's not name some Beatles records because I'm sick of this, but like a Highway 61 Revisited, or a Music for 18 Musicians. If you don't have those records, go and get them. I was doing a Gimme 10 on Melbourne jazz, and I was considering including this record in Krakatoa, Ordinary Bridge. It's not really a jazz record. It's more like a neo-krat rock, neo-prog record. Krakatoa, a trio from Melbourne, yes, that came out in 2014, Water Near a Bridge. I've seen them live a couple of times, Krakatoa, and they're really, really amazing. One time, I saw them reinterpret the soundtrack for Fantastic Planet, the French animation movie. No, it's not French. It's actually from the Czech Republic, from Czechoslovakia, but I think it was a co-production, and they were amazing. But this is their first release, and I think, to me, it's the one that I like the most. Very progressive, krat rock like. Take a listen to the side A jam. You'd be suitably impressed. They have keyboards, organ, bass, and drums. It's a really lovely mix. A revisit again of Dino Valentino, his solo record, sort of lysergic West Coast folk rock record. Dino Valentino, there we go. He was in Quicksilver Messenger Service, the classic sort of San Francisco blues rock, psychedelic blues rock band, you know, on the same kind of like scene as Jefferson Airplane and the Grateful Dead and so on. And then he went and made this record, and it sort of sounds like, well, it looks like, you know, very sort of forlorn sounds, very, but psychedelic as well. Time, the opening track, Children of the Sun, is a beautiful song. Everything is going to be okay. We hope everything is going to be okay. Is everything going to be okay? This is an official reissue from a few years back that I've had for a long time. I was also revisiting Schwingungen by Ashab Temple, the great German krautrock outfit. This is, I think, the second LP. This is a reissue, obviously, but you know, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, originals of these, I'll never see them anyway, so I'm happy with this. Very meditative, psychedelic trip, like extended tracks. Manu Goetsching on guitar, obviously, and Wolfgang Müller on drums, and a really essential krautrock album. You know, if you're going to make a list of the most important krautrock releases, surely Schwingungen would be there, which means vibrations in German. Hello Tamo, if you're watching. I know you'll be watching. You'll give me a report on what I've said here. I was rediscovering Lift Every Voice. I mean, Andrew Hill is really one of the best things on the Blue Note label. You know, if you think Blue Note is all about like straight jazz and post bop and bebop, you know, this guy is really the chief. I think I was going to say the chief avant-gardist of Blue Note, but you know, they also had Cecil Taylor on there and other people like that. But I think Andrew Hill made lots of really interesting off the beaten path records for Blue Note. Point of Departure being the classic Andrew Hill, but you know, many more, Blackfire. And this is a later release with Woody Shaw on trumpet, amazing trumpet player, Carlos Garnett on sax, Richard Davis on bass, and Freddie Waite on drums, plus a bunch of singers, because Lift Every Voice, it's got this spiritual nature, very full. You know, there's a choir there, and it's a terrific sort of spiritual jazz record. If anything else, Lift Every Voice. Okay, a few more. Sorry. I'll try to not go over 30 minutes. Here's an album that I revisited in the past couple of weeks as well. Einstein on the Beach, Philip Glass and Robert Wilson. This was an opera conceived by Philip Glass and Robert Wilson. And I got to revisit this because I was reading this book on New York, Love Goes to Buildings on Fire, which I was talking about in a previous video. I made a video called Inspiration Information, and that was about that book. And the book talked a lot about Einstein on the Beach and how difficult it was to get funding for it, how difficult it was to get off the ground, and how difficult it was to release eventually. And this is the original pressing copy of it on Tomato. Not because it was reissued, I think, last year I think maybe. But I read in the book that this original pressing was made in quite small quantities, really, and because it's such a costly. It's a 4 LP minimalist, you know, modern classical opera. and it's quite a journey to play the 4 records. I only played 2 of them this week. Admittedly, I didn't go through the whole thing, but you know, very minimal and repetitive patterns, you know, but at the same time hypnotic, and some beautiful vocals on there as well, all the way through. A shout out to my friend Alan, Static Traveler, with Satori, an album he absolutely loves and adores, as he said in one of his recent videos. You go, whoops. Satori, there you go. He's a Japanese classic, sort of proto heavy metal, you know, in the sort of like Black Sabbath kind of vein, but very soft in ways, you know, very, very poppy, you know, at times, you know. The songs are so, you know, they're so melodic, and it's so memorable. I can, like, as I talk about it, I've got, you know, snippets of each song just running in my head. I think, you know, it's not really my wheelhouse of music, so I can't really talk about it very much. You know, I've got a few Black Sabbath records, but it's not something that I'm really an expert in. But I really like this record, and despite what Alan seems to think of it, I think you should give it a try. It's a great, you know, psychedelic, you know, heavy psychedelic records. I love the vocals too, you know. Take a listen. Last but not least is a fantastic release on Music from Memory. This is a Dutch label, and they keep knocking it out of the park. I think it's one of the best labels out there. Anything they release is pretty much worth having. And this is Michel, I don't know if it's meant to be Michael, but it says Michel Turtle, Phantoms of Dreamland. These are recordings from the 1980s, probably 1985, 84, 85, or thereabouts. Let me have a look. Yeah, 84, 83, 84. And it's a collection of ambient tracks. And I very, very highly recommend this. If you like John Hassel, if you like Eno, if you like... I'm thinking of John Hassel, largely, you know, what comes to mind. If you like, you know, ambient krat rock as well, there's some just beautiful tracks, you know, Cluster, things like that. There's some beautiful tracks there. I recommend this. It was cheap when I bought it. It was incredibly cheap, and I thought, well, just take a punt. I love it. Music from Memory, you rule. You never watch this video, but you fucking rule. Alright, on these words, I'll stop. I hope there was something you liked in this video. I hope I wasn't too wishy-washy. But I'm probably a bit wishy-washy today because I'm, you know, fighting the fight. Alright, take care everyone.